Go live. Okay. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Blossoming Into You series. We are back for episode number 26, and we are going to be diving deep into what it looks like to blossom into a powerful goddess. And with me on here, we have Marisa tuning in all the way from Spain. And on today's episode, we are going to be diving deep into some really um, challenging topics that may bring up certain emotions or sensations in you. So just to give all of the audience a heads up, take care of yourself, resource yourself whenever you need, just step away. And the most important thing is really taking care of your needs during this conversation. And with that being said, Marisa, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Miko. And thank you everyone for listening. It's great to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much. I know today we're going to be talking about some really powerful topics that not a lot of women have the power or even the courage to openly talk about this kind of things. And I would love for you, before we go into that, just share a little bit with the audience, a little bit about Marisa. Like, what do you feel most present in the life for you right now that you would like to share with us?
My name is Marisa, and as you said, I'm from Spain, and that's where I live right now. Although I've been quite traveling around the world in the past, and in the moment, I work as a transformational coach, and as many of us, I'm guiding then older versions of myself. And I intuitively guide then my clients to embody self-love and sovereignty. And most of them have, as myself, a history of childhood trauma or pain that is then making them, pretty much life very difficult, and many times not really understanding why is that, and blaming themselves, like I'm not enough of this, or not capable of that, or not worthy of this. And then we dive deep to see where the roots of all of that is. And of
Mm-hmm.
course, I had to experience it myself.
Yeah, this is so good. And we were just talking before we went live earlier, like the more we play a bigger game in life, in work, in business, in relationship, the more we experience opportunities and invitations for us to heal something deeper that's lodged into our beings, into our body, into our nervous system that may have been hidden away for as long as we know. And that journey, I mean, speaking from my own journey as well, ever since I went on this entrepreneurship journey, like one of the biggest pain point has been the unworthiness conversation. It's like no matter how much I put in the work, how much I do, everything that I know I need to do to hustle and grind and to build a business, but like sometimes I often came to in my journey, like at this block, like why is the results not happening? And I realized that at the center of it all, it's just that unworthiness conversation. So do you want to speak into that, Marisa, how that showed up for you?
Yeah, because that's been really a very huge topic
Yeah.
for me. The thing was that I experienced a lot of abuse as a child, from emotional abuse to also part so physical abuse. But the most, let's say that the one that let's say caused more trauma, I would say, was the sexual abuse, because I had not just one but several very traumatic experiences on that abuse. And the way that I cope, and that's for many childhood sexual abuse survivors the case, the way we cope with it is literally leaving our bodies and then disassociating from ourselves, because it's just too painful. We don't understand what's going on. And it's a cope mechanism, it's a survival mechanism. So, and then if you don't have any adult to turn to, any adult that can kind of like give you a safe narrative and tell you, that that doesn't define you, and that you're fine, and that there's nothing to be shame or feel guilty about, because it wasn't your fault, then that's pretty much the only thing that you've got left.
Mhm.
So that's what I did from a very early age. And then all I can remember was having struggles throughout life, anxiety and depression and suicidal thoughts, and people pleasing, very getting very anxious if somebody will criticize me, or I needed to control. So in order to feel safe, I needed to control myself, to control my environment. So actually, I didn't even know that I had worth issues until I started working on them. I wasn't even aware of that, because how can you be aware of something that you've never really experienced, or at least not on a conscious level?
Mhm.
Like now, through deep dive hypnosis, then I've been able to connect to memories of being a baby, and happy memories. But feeling worthy, that's something that my body doesn't really remember.
Mhm.
So in my case, was even though that I started very early to go to therapy, trying to find answers, trying to heal anxiety, or trying to heal depression, I it was not until motherhood, I even went through a burnout that brought me into the emergency room. That was kind of like the wake up call for me. And that's when I started diving even deeper into the journey of the, what I would call, the awakening journey in a sense. And that's when I realized, wow, I don't feel worthy. I don't even know what it is to feel worthy. I would always measure myself depending what the outside gave me as a feedback. If
Mhm.
they told me that I was doing great, then I felt good about myself. If they told me that what I was doing, or the person that I was being was horrible, then I felt horrible about myself. And it was just this dependency on that. And so it's been really a journey. And I mean, I think it's an ongoing journey at some level, because as we were talking before, it's like this new level, in a sense, the new devil.
Mhm.
And but at the same time, I now am experiencing what it is, to feel worthy, to be in my body,
Mhm.
to tap into my senses, into my instinct, my intuition, and really tapping into my needs and what I want and how I want it. And that's just so incredibly empowering. And then, of course, when you come from such darkness, it's like the name of your of your show. It's this feeling of, okay, it's blossoming. And as we said before, it's not always comfortable, it's not always easy, and it can be really triggering, but for me it's the only way.
Mhm. And I think Marissa, what you just beautifully described, it's a depiction of almost every woman they experience in their journeys of, I mean, speaking for myself, speaking from the women that I connect with and support, like we all have cultivated an aspect of ourselves where we are looking for love and validation and approval from everything external of us, right? From our success, from the things we achieve, from the relationships that we get into. It's constantly looking outward to get a sense of, am I good enough? Am I enough? Am I worthy? Am I deserving of this? And like you said, sometimes a lot of these behaviors, like people pleasing or putting others above our own needs, it's unconscious, but then it always comes down to a root cause that generates these, that manifests all of these behaviors and tendencies, that usually it's a protective mechanism to protect us and keep us safe from whatever that invisible monster is, right? It could be that feeling of, I'm not going to be loved, I'm not enough, I'm not, whatever that invisible monster is. And we spend so much of our waking lifetime to chase after something, to hustle, to grind, to aim for the biggest ambition. Like for me, that was how it showed up. I was uber ambitious. I had all of these massive goals, but then what was driving all of these ambition was that deep wound of afraid of not being loved, that unworthiness. And it comes back down to that visceral experience. Like you gotta feel it in the body. It's not just a concept that you can tell yourself with mantras or affirmations. I mean, those are great, but that only lands at the conscious, like mind level. It gotta come down to the body, the emotional brain, the primal brain, which is the unconscious levels of the nervous system, which is why like I work with the woman on those levels beyond the mind, where that's where true powerful transformation healing really exists. So Marissa, how was your journey like? How did you, even get to the level where you can tune into your body, which I know like took pretty a lot of work to get to that level, to be able to activate a sensation in the body, to almost like have this connection between the mind and the body. Like how did you get there to feel that visceral sensation of I am worthy?
You already expressed it very well, because I also, first I came from the mind. That was my first step. I am actually a former science teacher, and when I became like an expert in the neuroscience of how the brain works. So it was very easy for me. I was the kind of person that people turn into for wisdom, for advice, because on the theoretical level I knew a lot.
Mhm.
Okay. But the thing was that what I was used to was a complete disconnect from myself and my own body. And that got even to the extreme that when I went through this phase where my children were very little, I was not getting enough sleep. It was the crisis time here in Spain, so my partner lost his job and he didn't have a job for like 4 years. So it was just me, me mothering these babies, and then being the only breadwinner.
Mhm.
So I pretended, because the thing was that I learned to wear masks.
Mhm.
So I kept wearing those masks. And even my best friends, they said that it was really hard for them to witness, because they said we just were watching you falling apart, but you wouldn't let us in. And the thing was that I wasn't even consciously aware that I was falling apart. I was believing my own lie, that I've got this, I can do this, because I learned to take on so much pain and so much brokenness, that I had to hold those pieces together, because they were already so incredibly broken.
Mhm.
So the first step to connect was to allow, literally in my case, it was just my body who said stop. And it was literally that my body broke, like my whole nervous system broke down in the form of a tremendous back pain, that I couldn't even stand up. I was in so much pain that all I could do was lying on the floor. So it was like the universe, in that sense, brought me death so that I could rest, because I couldn't do anything. I couldn't hold my mobile phone. I couldn't hold a book. What I could do was be on the floor and have my baby scroll over me, and then stand up for 10 minutes until the pain was unbearable, and then go back. And of course, in those 2 months, there were there was a very insightful moment for me. I was lying on the kitchen floor, and one of the babies was not even a year, and the other one was 3, and they were both crawling over me. And I said to myself, if I had it all together, because I was so in survival mode throughout my life, that that had become normal. So then I had told myself that I had it together, because I accomplished. I went to university. I had a good job. I had a family. From the outside, it looked like, yeah, she's got it, right? So then I believed that lie myself, and then I said, okay, if I've done everything right, how come I'm here? So that sparked this question. Maybe there's something much deeper. Maybe there's something there, even though I had no idea what it was. It was like super dark. And then the second question that I asked myself was, is this the example I want to give my children of how you live life? And that was like this huge roaring no came from inside. And I just knew that was a dead end road. So that was a road that I had been going on for 30 plus years, and I couldn't go 1 meter further. So then it had to be something different. And I had no clue where to start. But the thing is that that's the beauty of it. When we open up to the universe, when we say, okay, please, I'm so lost. When you surrender, I was just, and it was literally surrendering. I was like on the floor, I couldn't surrender more. And I was so in the surrender modus that then universe just brought everything, brought the first person that I should go talk to, brought these amazing birds giving me these signs that I thought I was going crazy because all these magical things were happening. And, I was coming from the mind, right? I was coming from the logical, from the analysis, from the control. I would be one of the persons that I could watch myself now talk and be like, whoa, that one is woohoo, right? And that was me like 15 years ago. So then, that's what, for me, that's what it was needed. Like I needed to break. And so that all those pieces that had been somehow glued together in a very, let's say, not very right way, not a healthy way, had to completely fall down. And then the journey started. And then for me, of course, it meant, to me, it was the spiritual awakening, the one that made the boom, the key, connecting to that, yeah, there is really much more. This is all interconnected. The energy, the spirit, and that brought me back to my body, because I was disconnected from my body. My body was a tool to keep me alive and to do stuff. I was all about being productive, and I was all about all the doing, 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 doing. The more I do, the more worth I am, right? And the more productive I am, then the more recognition I get. I was the typical that everybody loved to have at work, because I would, overgive all over. And so it was like a relearning, to live in everything. And it started from the mind. Sorry, I know that I'm making it long because it was so difficult to bring it to the point. But then I realized that hey, there is something missing. That I could see others, that they were tapping into this worthiness, and I had like all the theory, and I was still not tapping it. So what was it? And then I went into Tantra, and I took some Tantra courses, and I was like, whoa, okay, whoa, what's this? Okay, like what's going on? I thought I had a good sexual life. And when I think about it now, it's like, no, you didn't, you know? And I thought that I was, just by dancing a little bit. No, it's just this being conscious, this being present, this, and it turns into every little thing. Like when you take a shower, are you lost in your thousand thoughts? Or can you be in your body? Can you feel the water? Can you maybe even picture that this water is clean, is cleansing, all lower vibrations away from you? When you put it on the cream, I can now be in my body. I can now, it brings love while I'm bringing cream over my body. Before I was like, and thinking about stuff, right?
Yeah.
So it's been a journey, and I'm still on it. I think that is ongoing, but that's been the key, because trauma lives in the body. Until I didn't get to the body, there was, I could do all these courses, I could read all these books, I could have all this amazing theory, and I could give so great advice, but I wasn't living it. I wasn't embodying it.
I know that journey all too well myself because that was also the beginning of my path. Like I did everything from the intellectual mind. Like it was all about the books I read, the seminars I've been to, the podcasts I listened, like, and I understood all the concept. Like I got it. Like I got it, but then the results and my reality was not reflecting what I knew conceptually. So I was like, what is going on? And until I started also doing like the connection with my body, building that bringing building the bridge between what I knew conceptually versus what my body knew visually, that's when everything, it's almost like I unlocked a gate like right here and just like whoosh, everything like melts into my body, and I finally knew what it felt like to love myself, what it felt like to be worthy. And it's an experience that only you can feel with your body. And obviously the steps that needed to get there, it's like you gotta first awaken the sensations in the body with the five senses. What are you feeling? What are you touching? What are you seeing? What are you tasting? And just like how the body kept ourselves safe by dissociating, like you mentioned earlier, Marissa, with the trauma from the past, or numbing ourselves out, not feeling anything in the body, that's also what's preventing us from experiencing the most amazing pleasure, the most amazing like orgasmic states of being. So like just like what we use to numb ourselves out, we are also using to prevent us from being fully alive in the human experience. So it is so critical for us to create the container necessary for us to drop into the body. And for me personally, what I experience is creating that safety, like whatever it is that we can generate a safety within the nervous system, within like the physiology, letting the nervous system know like, hey, it's okay, it's safe, I can drop in, I can surrender, I can slow down that constant survival mode, that fight flight or freeze mode, and just really be here and right now, tapping into a present, not thinking about the future, not thinking about the past, and just know right here and right now it's okay. And I hear from my experience working with women, it's like when we are living constantly in the head or in the future, that's because we're avoiding the now. The now is not safe. The now is something is not okay. So we're constantly thinking about the future, constantly thinking in the head, avoiding what's right here and right now, which is the most juicy pleasure that exists right here. And it is the life force, is feeling, it's that sexual energy that we were talking about with tantric work. It's like feeling that life force pulsating within our entire being. And that's also where our greatest power lies. The center of our power, to me, I know it comes from like the sexual power, the sexual energy, which unfortunately a lot of women are still disconnected from that. What's your take on that, Marissa?
All of it. Literally all of it, because you just, you just describe also what I've been through, and also what I see, because when what we said before, we are here of service for those kind of like older versions of ourselves. And of course then I see that again and again and again in my clients, how they through their experiences they are living in survival modus. And actually I always explain to my clients that the mind has two main programs. Number one is survival, and it until everything, it really feels safe. And in order to feel safe, you have to tell the mind that it's safe.
Mhm.
That nobody can do that for you, especially when you're an adult. Of course, when you're a kid, yeah, then it's supposed to happen from the adults around you. Then that's where the problem begins many times. But once you're an adult, you have to do that yourself. And many times it's actually that the mind is trying to help us because we're still feeling unsafe. So the mind keeps throwing stuff, okay, you're still feeling unsafe, so now I'm going to make you worry about money, and now I'm going to make you worry about this relationship, and I'm going to make you worry about if they judge you or if they thought this and that, and it's just this constant chatter, blah 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 blah. And it's not until when we tap our bodies, the mind can be silent. Because if you're when we tap here and we feel, just sometimes it's as easy as just feel your warm hand on your heart chakra,
Mhm.
and just stay there for a moment and see what happens. I have many of my clients that go like, sometimes the practices that I give them are as easy as that, and they are like, I can do it. I get, it makes me nervous, I get angry, because when we go against the pattern,
Mhm.
at the beginning, the mind goes like, yeah, really? Are you sure? Are we supposed to be in survival modus the whole time? Like, what are you doing? Why are you relaxing? Why are you, not doing something? And then it gets triggered. But the moment that we start listening to the body and we tap into it and it feels safe, then it can start unlocking. It can start unlocking all the blocks that it's been carrying around. And there were, now I understand so many of the pains because my body was actually talking to me, was literally screaming at me. And now I can understand and I can work with it. And I can tell him,
Mhm.
that I'm so thankful that you're there, because it's like a thermometer. It's a thermometer that it tells you how you're doing and how you're feeling. So definitely I'm taking it all, and it's all because we are complicated, we are holistic. We have the bodies, we have the minds, we have the emotions, we have the energy. For those
Mhm.
that connect with that, we have the spirit. So we are complicated, but sometimes we forget this physical tool because we are indeed in a physical world. And to me, at least, it was one of the tools that was the hardest to work with, because what I connected with was it's not safe to be in my body because horrible things happen to my body. So how can I be safe in it? So then being in my body made me, of course, very nervous, and sometimes made me even angry, like anxious. There
Mhm.
I had to, okay, run away somehow.
Yeah.
And this that's been a process, this being in here and now. And it's just like a gift that I really want every human being to experience, and that I want those adults to raise children so that we teach them, because as babies we come with it. Children feel safe in their bodies if nobody does anything to them, of course. They naturally feel safe. They naturally feel safe in the world. And it wouldn't be beautiful, if we could all feel that
Mhm.
and nurture each other to feel that.
Yeah. And so as we are wrapping up with this conversation, I want to summarize just like from my own journey too, and very similar to yours, Marissa, like where I see how this path unfold for a lot of the women is like the beginning. It's really usually has to do with something, some form of repression or shame of our sexuality, our sensuality, and our body. Something happened that created a repression or a shutdown or a blockage of this potent energy force within us, our sexuality, our sensuality, so that usually translates into a body of shame or fear or guilt or judgment, unworthiness. And then that body of shame usually manifests into things like people pleasing or being a doormat, being not owning our power, not using our voice, not being confident, seeking outside validation. All of those are physical external manifestation of that shame body, which came from the repressed sexuality. So to go to unravel all of that, for me, where I see the quickest and the most potent path to transformation and healing is to go to the area that has the most darkness, the most shame, the most repression, which usually is for the woman's body. It's in her body and in her embrace of her sexuality. So when we shine light on that and do healing on that, that's when we also instantly peel back off these layers that are blocking us from accessing our power, our intuition, our creativity, our joy, our pleasure. And that's really, I see so much potential in the future for where the world gets to be, because where we are at, there's still a lot of women so disconnected from their body, so disconnected from their sexual power. And when we are all reclaiming this aspect of us, that's when we can have a body experience of wholeness. Because how can we feel whole if a core part of ourselves has been disconnected, has been rejected, has been repressed? So that's where I would like to summarize all of our conversation today. What would you like to leave our audience off with, Marissa?
Um, I would say if you are not feeling happy or whole, as Miko just said, just check into your body. And I would also say maybe check your childhood experience, because there's so much that starts there, that happened there. It doesn't have to be as traumatic as my story. Okay, I'm not saying please nobody goes out there thinking, oh my god, maybe I was sexually abused and I don't remember. Please, I don't want to give out that message, but I do want to give the message that childhood is key many times to what patterns and programming we then carry and develop and continue replaying in adulthood. So that would be just what I would like to say. And
Mhm.
love yourself, everyone.
Yeah, so what I hear from that is get curious. Just get curious and start exploring and keep that open mind and be like, where is this coming from? At the end of the day, we all have answers within ourselves, but it requires that willingness and that openness to dive within and ask the right questions versus like looking outward and be like trying to fix out inner problems with outside solutions. It doesn't
Exactly.
work. So, Marissa, I do want to ask you if our audience would like to connect with you further, if they would like to maybe have a conversation with you, how can they find you?
Sure. I can. I could leave my Facebook link because my website is now being renewed, so I don't have it. So they can reach over me Facebook or per email too. I can send it over to you if you want,
Okay.
Mika.
Yeah. So I'll have Marissa's information. If anyone would like to connect with her, I will send it out in the email and let us know what really resonated with you. This is a safe space. You can connect with Marissa, you can connect with me, and just share with us what came up for you, what's in your heart right now. Just open that dialogue, at least, with one person or with yourself, and get that dialogue going and create that space for you to be in discovery of what's currently in your way, and so that you can blossom into a powerful goddess that's already within you. So with that being said, thank you everyone for tuning in. Thank you, Marissa, for joining us, and
Thank you.
until next time, sending so much love to all of you, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.